While I was living in Spain, I found this little device in a convenience store and I just couldn't help but pick it up. It's just a simple SCART to composite and S-video converter, but it's got this nifty switch that allows it to also go from composite to SCART. Well, I don't live in Spain anymore, so I don't really have much use for it, though it does the job of getting composite video out pretty well. However, the only console I have that is running SCART is my RGB modded PC Engine Duo, and since I don't have any converters aside from my OSSC, I have no way of playing it on my PVM, and that console doesn't even output composite now anyway. So I thought I'd use the parts from this converter to make an RGB SCART to RCA adapter. Why would I do that? Well, because I don't have any BNC cables, and I've got a ton of RCA to BNC adapters and RCA cables. I started off just by opening up the box to see what it looks like on the inside. Aish, what a mess. Now, I am far from an expert at these things, so to really understand what I was doing, I took a look at this pinout diagram. I'll have a link to this diagram in the description if you want to take a look at it yourself. It looks like we've got a pin dedicated for red, green, and blue, as well as a specific ground for each of them. And don't forget sync, which we'll be using the composite output for. I believe you would call this sync on composite, unless it's composite sync. I don't know, I'm figuring this out as I go. So next came the big kid step, de-soldering all 20 pins. Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think I actually did a pretty good job, and there was only a tiny bit of cosmetic damage done to the plastic. So the goal for this project is simply to get a good RGB signal out, so there's a lot in this pinout diagram we really don't need to worry about. In theory, all I need to do is hook up red, green, and blue up to their respective pins and grounds, as well as composite video for the sync signal. I started off testing composite since I can easily check to see if that one works. All we need for this is pin 20, the composite in and ground. I initially used pin 21 for this, but later switched to the dedicated composite ground pin, pin 17. I tested it out using my spare Genesis since it shares the same input as the PC Engine and I'm not worried about damaging it. And I was indeed able to get a composite signal going, great! So far so good. I decided to just wrap the wires around the pins while I was still in the testing phase and solder them once everything is complete. Next we'll just go down the line, starting with red. So after a couple of tries, I finally got a pretty decent non-soldered wiring going, but it still didn't look right, and worse yet, I found out that in addition, the red image would only show up if I had attached a BNC to RCA cable in the back output of my PVM, and I'm really not sure why. After playing around with things for a minute, it seems like my issue was that the green wire just didn't want to send green out. Then I started just unplugging and replugging randomly. All of a sudden, green started working! Well, almost. Just for fun, I switched in my PC Engine Duo and whoa! There it is! Maybe the wiring is different for the PC Engine Duo than for my Sega Genesis? Or maybe this Genesis has a busted RGB signal. Honestly, I don't care either way, I only started this project for the PC Engine. My HD Retrovision component cables are A-OK for my needs. I later found out that the reason green wasn't coming out initially is because I hadn't quite pushed the SCART in snugly enough. So all that's left to do is wire the audio. Or I could be really lazy and just use the headphone jack. No, okay, I'll wire the audio too. Thankfully, I've got a million of these RCA wires just lying around the house, so it's no big deal to just snip them off like this. The pins for stereo audio are as follows. Pin 2 for the right channel, 6 for the left channel, or mono, and then they share a ground pin on 4. I tested each audio wire individually to make sure they were working and made sure to keep track of left and right, and boom! Stereo audio! After soldering all the wires to their respective pins, here's what it looks like. Not very pretty, I know, at all, but hey, it works, and that's all that matters for me. Now I can finally play my PC Engine on my PVM! There was just a little bit of cable management to be done. I put some electrical tape on the exposed wires with the intent of getting rid of any unintended connections and to make the adapter look as disgusting as possible. I also added red, green, and blue tape to the ends of the wires since I didn't have any spare RCA cables of the appropriate colors. And with that, my project was complete. In an ideal world, I'd put it in a case or something, but I don't really have anything to do that with right now, so for now it'll just be a little naked. Maybe I'll repurpose the shell at some point for that. This was a really fun project to make. I've been getting a lot more into modding and fixing my old consoles, and I know I'm far from an expert. If you know of any good resources for learning this kind of trade, please drop me some info in the comments. I've got a lot to learn. I'm Bofner, and thanks for watching. See ya! Yeah, so I lost all my footage for Sly 2 and many other things, so don't expect that review anytime soon.